Well, today we have musicians,
promoters, lawyers,
beloved childhood characters, some disappointing truth.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Phill Spector, an innovative record producer and musician who's worked with some of the biggest bands of all time. Leonard Cohen, the Ramones, and many more. Oh, and some underground group called the Beatles. Phill Spector is also known for having killed American actress Lana Clarkson in 2003. Clarkson had met up with Spector at the House of Blues in LA. The two were then driven to his mansion. Spector and Clarkson went inside. The driver remained in the car. Then, a little while later, Spector walked outside holding a firearm, telling his driver, quote, "I think I killed someone." Clarkson's body was found slumped over a chair with a single bullet wound to the mouth. Apparently, this had not been an isolated incident. During the trial, 4 other women testified against Spector, saying he'd pulled a firearm on them while intoxicated after they'd turned down his advances and tried to leave his home. On May 29, 2009, Spector was sentenced to 19 years to life and died in prison in 2021.
Next on our list, we have Johnny Lewis, best known for his role as Half-Sack Epps on Sons of Anarchy, and for the fact that from 2005 to 2006 he was in a very public relationship with pop sensation Katy Perry. Although Lewis did have a history of substance abuse, no one ever thought he would be capable of doing what he did on September 26th of 2012. He beat and killed his 81-year-old landlady, Catherine Davis. After the incident, he went up to the roof of his building where he got into an argument with 2 men, during which he fell off of the building onto the sidewalk below and died on impact. When police conducted their investigation of the killing and Lewis's death, they found no clear motive as to why Lewis would have done what he did. Not only that, but when they tested his blood for substances, they found out that he was completely sober at both the time of the killing and the time of his own death. The incident happened just after the young actor had been released from jail 5 days prior on September 21st, where he was serving time for charges of attack with a deadly weapon and burglary. Why things escalated the way they did, we may never know.
Chris Benoit, I'll probably be getting some heat for this one. I'm sure pro wrestling fans are very familiar with the case of Chris Benoit, said to be one of the best wrestlers of all time. Now, I know something had obviously changed in Benoit. He'd suffered multiple concussions, and tests were done on his brain after his death that showed it resembled that of an 85-year-old Alzheimer's patient. He was also in a really bad place after Eddie Guerrero's death about a year and a half before. So I'm not actually saying Chris Benoit was evil. However, he did kill his entire family. It's a tragic case, but the fans that rallied to have like WWE acknowledge him again, I don't know. I kind of gotta question that. Like, seriously? The details of this case are incredibly disturbing. The bodies of Benoit, his wife Nancy, and their son were discovered on June 25th of 2007. Authorities had been responding to a welfare check because Benoit never showed up to the weekend shows and hadn't even called in or anything, which was very odd. On Friday, 3 days before the bodies were discovered, Benoit had bound his wife before strangling her. He then gave his son Xanax before strangling him. Benoit spent all of Saturday and then most of Sunday with his deceased wife and son in the home. After this case, all this stuff, really started coming to light about pro wrestling and concussions and how serious they really are. Shed a lot of light on the darker side of wrestling.
Next on our list today, we've got Sid Vicious, and boy is he ever. If you don't know who Sid Vicious is, he was the former bassist of the English punk rock band formed in London in 1975, the Sex Pistols. In 1978, Vicious met a woman named Nancy Spungen, and the two quickly became inseparable. Unfortunately, however, as Vicious and Spungen's relationship grew, Sid's relationship with the band began to deteriorate, and eventually the band broke up. But Sid and Nancy's relationship remained strong. That is, until the morning of October 12th of 1987, when Nancy Spungen was found dead on the bathroom floor in the Chelsea Hotel. She had been killed by Vicious with the very same blade she had gifted to him during their loving honeymoon stage. Vicious went back and forth with confessing to and adamantly denying the crime, but he was ultimately charged with killing in the second degree. But a few days later, he was released on bail. Different times, I suppose.
Paul Kelly. He was in movies from 1919 to 1957. It's kind of crazy to think he was doing movies for so long because in 1927 he killed a fellow actor named Ray Raymond. Not a famous actor, he only got to work in a couple very early movies because he died. Ray Raymond had been married to an actress named Dorothy McKay, and apparently she'd been having an affair with Paul Kelly. On April 16th of 1927, an intoxicated Kelly approached an intoxicated Raymond. The two started to argue about Kelly's relationship with Raymond's wife. Things quickly got physical, and Paul Kelly ended up beating Raymond to death. Kelly was apparently considerably bigger. Paul Kelly was sentenced to up to 10 years at San Quentin, but only ended up doing 25 months. He was released on the condition that he couldn't get married for 18 months, okay? And that he'd have to work as a grocery clerk, only making $30 per week. He worked as a clerk for a bit, but managed to convince his parole officer to allow him to work on Broadway again, with the deal being he'd still only be able to make $30 per week. Here's the really insane part though. After his 18-month no marriage probation thingy, he and Dorothy McKay got married. This lady got married to the dude who'd killed her husband. And the other crazy part, McKay had a daughter, Valerie Raymond. Paul Kelly became her father. Her name was changed to Mimi Kelly. The man who had beaten her father to death was now living in her house as her adoptive father. Just unreal.
Next on our list today we have former boxing promoter Don King, who killed not one, but two men in two separate incidents. The first man King killed was legally deemed self-defense. He fired a projectile at an intruder, a man named Hillary Brown, who was attempting to break in to one of King's gambling establishments. But the second man he killed was not in self-defense. And it wasn't pretty either. In 1967, King entered into a dispute with an employee named Sam Garrett, who at the time of his death was indebted to Don King. How much? $600. That's right, the man lost his life over $600. It seems as though King was growing impatient while waiting for Sam to pay him back, and eventually he just snapped. He entered into a fight with Sam, during which King stomped the man completely to death. He was convicted of man 1 and was jailed for, get this, 3 years and 11 months. Talk about a slap on the wrist.
The story of Varg Vikernes is known to pretty much anyone involved in the extreme metal scene. This guy's known for his early days in the black metal subgenre in Norway, but probably most famous for burning down churches and killing one of the founders of the infamous black metal band Mayhem. Varg had driven to Euronymous' apartment in Oslo. He was carrying a blade with him. Now, according to Varg, he believed that Euronymous had been planning to kill him and videotape it. The two got into an argument, and Varg impaled Euronymous 23 times, although Varg says some of those wounds have been caused by broken glass. He also claims that Euronymous attacked him first, but really, it's impossible to know. They were the only two in the room. Varg was sentenced to 21 years in prison. When he was given his sentence, he famously gave this creepy smirk to the camera.
Next up, we have none other than Caytlin Jenner, who in the span of less than a year killed someone and then went on to be awarded Woman of the Year. Make it make sense. In February of 2015, Jenner's SUV rear-ended a white car being driven by Kim Howe, an actress and animal rights activist, causing it to fly out into oncoming traffic. Kim's car was then struck by a Hummer, a collision that badly injured passengers in both vehicles but ultimately claimed the life of Kim Howe. After the incident, Jenner volunteered to have her blood drawn for a sobriety test, which she did pass, but she claimed that the accident was caused because of paparazzi, which she told police had been chasing her at the time, although authorities believed that to be a lie. After the incident, Jenner released a blanket statement of remorse. However, the stepdaughter of the deceased claims that Caytlin never actually apologized to her or any of Kim's family members directly for her role in Kim Howe's death. Months later, in October of 2015, Caytlin Jenner was awarded Woman of the Year and given the title All-American Hero, which, if you ask me, is All-American BS.
Michael Jace, an actor known for his role in the TV show The Shield, ended up killing his wife, April Jace, at their home in May of 2014. The two had been having a domestic dispute. Michael had accused his wife of cheating on him, and things quickly escalated, and Michael pulled a firearm and fired at her. Unfortunately, their two young ones were in the house at the time. Jace called 911 and admitted to firing at his wife. He stayed at the scene until police arrived, and and was arrested and charged. He claimed that he hadn't tried to kill her, that he was only trying to hit her in the leg to cause pain. In May of 2016, though, Michael Jace was convicted and sentenced to 40 years to life in prison.
And finally, we have Phill Lewis, aka Mr. Mosby. None of us wanted this one to end up on the list, but unfortunately it's here because it's true. It happened. In December of 1991, Lewis made the decision to get behind the wheel with an intoxication level that was 3 times the legal limit. During his drive, he crossed over the center line and collided head-on with the vehicle of Isabel Duarte, who was taken to hospital but pronounced dead shortly after. When Lewis, who was 23 at the time and working as an actor, was questioned about the incident, he claimed that he couldn't remember anything, but that he was sorry for what he had done. He was, and this should come as a shock to none of you, sentenced to 5 years in prison, already a joke, but released after 1 year, after which he was ordered to serve 2 years probation and 350 hours of community service. Bet you didn't know all that when you were growing up watching Mr. Mosby scream at Zack and Cody for running through his lobby. It seems a little bit hypocritical, if you ask me.
Oh boy. I wouldn't call everyone on this list evil, but you know, these are very unfortunate cases.
I would call their negligence, their stupidity bordering on like evil. Like it's not, but it's like how.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Don't be like these people.
Yeah.
I've been your host, Santa Thompson.
I've been your host, James.
See you in the next one.